Another tough day at the office for the Bears, who couldn't live with a dominant Keighley Cougars side. We've got all the reaction from that game. This is the world's greatest podcast about the Coventry Bears. We're getting rained on. This is the Bare Necessities. Yes, welcome to Bare Necessities, your favourite podcast about the Coventry Bears. We are sat in a car in the middle of the thunderstorm, so apologies if there's lots of background noise. We live at covbearspodcast.com. We're at covbearspodcast on Twitter. We're sponsored by York's Tim, and you can get the show wherever you get podcasts from, and on YouTube too. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dave Muston. Joining me as always is Craig Cathcart. Craig, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. Despite the result, enjoyed another trip here over to Rugby to watch the game. Love watching the matches here. You get so close to the pitch and you can hear everything, and the facilities are great and everything else. But yeah, very disappointed with the result, I think, and we'll talk about that in a minute, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So the result was Bears 20, Cougars 46. Real dominant display from the Cougars and a very error-strewn display from the Bears. It's likely that this show is perhaps going to be potentially one of those ones where we have one of the more negative things to say than we usually do. So let's start with a positive. Today was also the launch of the book that I've written, and that went very well. Lots of people seemed pleased that it was there. So a big thank you to everyone who either pre-ordered or who bought a copy at the game today. The club do have some copies in their club shop, so if you didn't get around to pre-ordering and you want to get one, then from the remaining 2 home games you will be able to buy one direct from the club, and you can put money directly into their bank balance, so do that. But yeah, it was nice to finally get it out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate, and it looks fantastic. Everyone who had a look at the book loves the cover. It was really good. Lots of interest as well at the gate on the way in. Lots of people looking forward to reading it. I certainly am. I'm really looking forward to I've only had a very sneak peek at it, and I'm looking forward to reading through.
Good stuff. Well, thank you. So let's get on to the game then. It sort of started badly and carried on along those lines for the Bears. I'm glad we're in the car. I'm glad we're not outside right now. We timed our walk back to the car very well. The Cougars started on fire. They scored 2 quick-fire tries very early on, took a 10-0 lead. Credit to the Bears, though, they did hit back. Try through Sam Davis first. He did a quick show and go on 5th tackle and scored. And then Elliot Hall, of course, scored again, taking a great line, and he converted to make it 10-all. And at that point, the Bears looked dangerous and looked like they could live with the Cougars. But as we've said on occasion this season, a lapse in concentration before half-time. The Cougars got 2 more tries before half-time to make it 22-10 at half-time. And then the second half was just Cougars try after Cougars try. They scored right after half-time to make it 28-10, then added 2 points with the penalty to make it 30-10, and then scored 3 more tries to edge out to 46-10. And at that point, the Bears hadn't really touched the ball in the second half. Bears did restore some pride in the last 5 or 10 minutes with 2 more tries, one from Reece Rance, a really great try actually. Elliot Hall spotting some space on the right edge, passed it to Cam Pearce-Paul, who put out the most lovely Cam Pearce-Paul-esque pass out to Reece Rance, who scored in the corner. And then Elliot Hall again scored right at the end. Nathan Conroy with a chip and chase gathered it up himself, slipped it to Elliot, who sprinted in from about 40 metres out, and he added the conversion. That one was right on the hooter, and that made it 20-46 at the final score. We'll chat through the game in a minute, but first, here's the post-match thoughts of Bears head coach Tom Tsang. Well, Tom, a bit of pride restored towards the end there, but a tough game, particularly the second half. What did you make of that one? Yeah,
I thought we struggled to just match Keighley's tactics, really. They clearly seen something about us down the sort of short side of the ruck, so they're coming down towards the touchline rather than going to the open side of the field, and it took us about half an hour to sort of switch on. Even the messages went on, but it took us a while to switch on to that, and they just made really cheap, easy meters down the flanks, and off the back of it we're able to score some some pretty easy tries. Really, I thought we should have defended a lot better than we did do. Just a few one-on-one. Well, I say just, but it's obviously important. But one-on-one misses, which is not good enough. Obviously, we scored a couple of tries ourselves and looked. Probably half an hour into the game, we looked at the match for Keighley, but they obviously were able to kick on and maintain their levels, whereas we just again not consistent enough and dropped back down. So,
and we've mentioned it before, but when the Bears were in attack and the tries they scored were pretty spectacular, some of them, is it frustrating that you can be so clinical at times and yet there were a lot of errors today and a lot of perhaps bad decisions being made? How frustrating is that as a coach?
Yeah, very. I mean, to be honest, it's easy to look good in attack when you're throwing the ball around and you're chancing your arm a little bit, but the hard work comes in defence, and we're not willing to do that at the moment for some reason. And just had a bit of an honest conversation in the change room there, and like one of the things that's really sort of troubling is that although the lads obviously get on as a team and they're all good friends, when they actually get onto the field and they're having to work hard defensively, they don't talk to each other, and the communication is very very poor at times. So it's something that we've spoken about before at times, and it does improve for maybe a game or two, but then it drops back down. And I mean, there's mitigating factors in terms of sort of the changes in personnel and some of the sort of the combinations are changing week to week because of the injuries we've had, but like it's a fundamental thing. It doesn't matter, you could be playing next to someone for the first time in your life, but you just know if you're playing rugby at this level, you've got to start communicating defence, otherwise one person will be going onto the ball carrier and the other person's going off onto their own person, and it's not coordinated, and that's obviously where we've made the errors. So as I've been all year, I've been pretty happy with what we've been doing with the ball, but defensively being way off today.
And I mean that lack of communication was evident from the sidelines. You were very quiet, particularly in comparison to the Cougars. Do you think some of that is down to the fact that some of the men you've got missing at the moment are your natural leaders as well, and perhaps they are the ones that usually are driving the talk on the pitch?
I mean, it will be part of it, but it's no excuse at the same time. Like the guys that are on the field are there because they want to be there, because they feel they've deserved it, because they do deserve it, a lot of them, but then they've got to step up to that point. And some of them that are getting opportunities are doing really well with it. Some of them are not meeting the sort of the criteria that they need to, and are not doing themselves any favours at this point in time. Having said that, like every lad in our team is here because they are good enough, and you can go in and out of form, but it doesn't help when everyone seems to do it at the same time. So that's kind of something that we just need to work through. And I personally, I don't shirk hard work, and I'll be making sure that I put the hours in, watching the video back, and making sure that we try and get the right response from it. But I need that response from the players as well.
So up next, a couple of tricky away games: North Wales away and Newcastle away. How do you approach those, and how's the state of your squad looking? Is it any healthier?
Well, it was doing coming into this game. Ollie Perslow's busted a rib, so he's going to be out for at least a couple of weeks by the looks of it. It doesn't look too great. And Harry Kaufman has got a pretty nasty looking cut on his hand, which will probably need a few stitches at least, and it's looking like he'll be out for a few weeks as well. With only 4 games left, those two look doubtful to at this point anyway to be back again. On the horizon, we've got a couple of guys that might be able to get back pretty quick, but we just need to keep rolling with those punches, I suppose.
Okay, Tom, well, thanks as always for your time, really appreciate it.
Cheers, Dave.
So thanks as always to Tom Tsang for joining us and giving us his post-match thoughts. So Craig, I mean, we like to try and find the positive from Bears games, and there are some positives today. I think our tries were very good, and at times we looked good in attack, but there was a lack of leadership today. They were very quiet on the pitch, a real lack of noise and communication, particularly when you looked at how up for it the Cougars were. And we were saying during the game, weren't we, just poor decision making and silly errors. It was a really frustrating game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I thought apart from it was a shocking start to the game. Conceded 2 really soft tries. that's the last thing you want to do against a team like Cougars, who were really, really up for it, and it kind of set the tone for the day. But the Bears did actually come back into it, and for large parts of the first half, the Bears looked really decent. Put Cougars under a lot of pressure, and actually, when they did put Cougars under sustained pressure, they scored from it. They'll be really disappointed, though. I mean, the last 10 minutes of the first half was disappointing, just to concede 2 tries then, giving Cougars a fairly comfortable half-time lead. But you know what? I was still fairly optimistic. For large parts of the first half, the teams have been evenly matched, but I think in reality, probably the first 30 minutes, first 20 minutes certainly of the second half was as poor as I've seen the Bears for a while.
And there was a risk there that we were going to get nailed in the second half, wasn't there?
Yeah. They I think it's a combination of things. I think the injuries are still playing a part. Certainly the pack looks patched up. Had 2 of our most influential players in Chris Barrett and Kieran Sherritt missing. The front row, to be honest, didn't really match. They tried hard, but they couldn't match Cougars for enthusiasm, and Cougars were really, really aggressive in the tackle, and the Bears just weren't making yards. I mean, the number of sets that were pretty much finishing in the Bears half was ridiculous. We give the ball away too many times, made errors, giving the ball back to them, and they punished us every time for it. I mean, I genuinely don't think there's a huge difference between the two sides. But the disappointing thing is the away game and this home game, Cougars have seemed to be more up for it and more enthusiastic, and they've got the win.
That's the exact word I was going to pick. It was about enthusiasm, certainly today. You know, we commented, I mean, Keighley scored basically after about a minute, didn't they? And we commented, they look really up for this and they sound really up for it. And there was the Bears were just nowhere near that level of enthusiasm, nowhere near that level of just being pumped and wanting to take the ball, wanting to smash the opposite man, wanting to break the line, wanting to support your man. Keighley had that in abundance today, and the Bears just couldn't match it, and it was a real game breaker.
And I wouldn't want to criticise the players that we've brought in on dual reg on loan, because actually they played quite well today, but I think that makes a difference. When you've got your own pack, when you've got your own players, and they're a unit that have played together, fought hard together for a long time, then you get that enthusiasm. You don't quite get the same when you've got a patched up pack. And when you play against a team like the Cougars, who have got a number of players who've played together for a long time and are experienced, then you're really going to struggle. And we really struggled in the middle today. Played not too bad on the edges. I think we were a little bit hesitant at times in defence. But I think if we'd gone, we didn't really have the firepower to be able to go toe-to-toe with Cougars, and if we'd had, there's a number of players missing. If we'd had our first choice lineup, I mean, has to be said, Cougars I think had some missing today as well, but we might have been able to go more toe-to-toe with them more, and it was just a bit annoying, I guess, from the point of view that at times when we did get near their line and we put pressure on them, that we looked dangerous and we looked like we could score. I mean, we got 2 late consolations, but both were excellent tries. We didn't really get many other opportunities in the second half. We had some in the first half that we should have scored from, but all in all, it's as I said, I just think we weren't quite as sharp as they were. We weren't quite as on it. A lot of players tried hard, though. I can't fault some of the effort of the players. It was just that little bit extra that you need when you come up against a team like the Cougars, who are going to really give it to you up front.
Well, I think the key moment was almost get it back to 10-all, tails up, looking good, looking a match, and then that lapse in concentration to let those 2 tries to sort of ship those 2 tries before half
we
time.
nearly scored again after that as well.
Yeah.
We were on the Cougars line and should have scored, and then dropped the ball, I think, and they got it back and they made a break, which in all honesty they shouldn't have been allowed to make. I think it was their hooker ran like 70 yards with the ball on a
couple
post.
of missed tackles, weren't
a couple of missed tackles on him. I mean, a hooker shouldn't be running that sort of distance without being taken out. So some hard work as well. I mean, I think perhaps I think Elliot Hall played well again today. He always looks good. I don't want to be overly critical of the wingers, but I think they needed to maybe do a bit more work, particularly with the carries, because the forwards certainly looked tired at times in the second half in the heat. They struggled, and Cougars had a better bench than the Bears today. It was as simple as that. I think when we were making changes, they weren't really improving or bringing any freshness into the side. So, yeah, I think... as you said, it's hard to take the positives out of the game. There was some glimpses of very good play.
Well, I was going to say, let's pick out some positives. I think for me, the 4 positives were the 4 Bears tries.
Yeah,
they were all
excellently worked tries
for their different skills. I mean, Sam Davis. The Bears have always been lacking a hooker who is dangerous that close to the line. Yeah. You know, we've seen Steve Parry do it against us so many times. Yeah. So to have a Bears hooker do that was really refreshing. Elliot Hall, both of his tries. The first one, brilliant angle to take that pass. Second one, we've seen what a good support runner he is. Yeah. He spotted that Nathan Conroy was going to make that chip and chase, and he spotted it would probably work out, and he was there to take the pass and take the ball. And Reese's try, I mean, that was like the second half of last season, that right edge, the dream team of Cam Pearce-Paul and Rhys Rance, just not even having to look at each other, just telepathic understanding. Yeah. That's really good that's there and that's back. And I think seeing Cam Pearce-Paul and Kadeem Williams back in the team today, probably not 100% match fit, but certainly not match sharp, and Kadeem playing in second row as well because of some of the other injuries. But really great to have those guys back, and that bodes well perhaps for the last 4 games. Yeah,
I think they just need to pick themselves up. I think they're not quite on it as we've seen in some matches this season. I think when this group of players are playing well together and linking up well, then they look really dangerous. I think another thing today, which is, and I've seen it in a couple of games, is I think we are a very good attacking threat and we can pretty much score from anywhere, but quite often we're looking for stuff that's not really on, when in reality, in this game, all you need to do is complete your sets. And yeah, a couple of things nearly came off, but you don't want to be dropping the ball and giving it away on the 3rd or 4th tackle. You want to be completing your set and kicking it downfield, especially with a team like Keighley with a big pack. You want to get them turning around and having to run back all the time. You don't want to be giving it away and giving them an opportunity to hit up straight back at you again. So,
well, plenty of lessons to be learned from this one, I think. I think that probably does it for discussion of the Keighley game. I think before we go, because we are going to finish soon, because we are, for a peek behind the curtain, dear listener, we are sat in my car ready to leave the ground. As you can probably hear, we are in a thunderstorm. This car is turning into a sauna the more we speak, so we are slowly melting. We can't really leave without talking about the fact, so between now and the next home game, there are 2 away trips, North Wales Crusaders and Newcastle Thunder. They're going to be tricky games, but we've beaten Newcastle once this season, and North Wales, we never know what North Wales team is, or we never know what Bears team is going to turn up against North Wales, really, do we? It's a sort of, we've got a bit of a 50-50 record against the Crusaders. But, you know, there's a chance that Tom and the coaching staff and the team, hopefully, are going to want to at least get one more win before the end of the season and restore some pride. There is a chance on those 2 away trips.
Yeah, I mean, this team is capable on their day of beating anyone. I think the injuries have hampered that, certainly, because I think with a settled team, they're training together all the time, then you'd be looking at training towards putting in a performance in one of the last few games. Crusaders will be tough. I mean, they're a very good defensive side. They do pounce on mistakes, and what they do is they complete their sets and they look for you to make mistakes and then punish you for it. So, but then I mean, I've been to 2 away games, one where we drew against Crusaders and one where we beat them. So we have history of going there and getting results. And, I think hopefully 1 or 2 more bodies back in the squad for that game, and there's every chance that we'll go there and get a decent result. There was glimpses today, certainly, that there is a performance there before the end of the season where we'll go somewhere and get a decent result. I'm looking forward to seeing how they get on. I think there'll be a few players with something to prove, so let's hope they're fired up and ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, between now and the next home game, those 2 away games, which we'll bring you coverage of, and the Challenge Cup final as well, where the Bears get a weekend off. So plenty of rugby league still to enjoy between now and the end of the season. But I reckon we can probably leave it there for this episode because we are both melting. So thank you, as always, for listening. Don't forget, if you want to get a hold of a book, then do come to one of the remaining Bears games. The club do have some for sale. We are available all the time at covbearspodcast.com. We're at covbearspodcast on Twitter. I occasionally remember to post some stuff on there. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. Do tell a friend. We're sponsored by York's Tim. Thanks as always for listening, Craig. Thanks again for putting up with this sweatbox recording studio.
Cheers.